Hey everyone, welcome back to The Moment Live. It's your co-host Meredith Lynch. It's March 3rd, which I just learned this. March 3rd is the anniversary of the it's now I can't remember. It's like the Anti-Anarchist Immigration Act of 1903 that was signed by Teddy Roosevelt. And I'm working on a project for something else. And I was like, I love knowing these like random dates. Basically, it made it so people who were against the government could not come into the United States, but it also barred people with epilepsy from coming into the United States. So it's like you find these things out and you're just like, wow, that is very strange.
Trump
On
also
purpose?
Sorry, what was that?
I said on purpose? Or was that like an unintended consequence?
No, on purpose. On purpose. I think that at the time they were really concerned about people coming into the United States and like taking advantage of the system. And I think like one of the thoughts was that like one of the most things that you could take would be that you had epilepsy, like that you know, couldn't contribute to society. And so anyway, thank you, Teddy Roosevelt, who was very pro-immigration, but only on his own terms and mostly only for white people. So anyway,
I feel like Trump sometimes uses these like esoteric laws that he then like repackages and is like, actually, this. And I feel like this is one, you know, like I could totally see him being like the late great Teddy Roosevelt, you know.
right. Anyway, with me as always is my co-host Rebecca Senenez, and I'm so excited we have a great guest co-host here today. Versha Sharma is a journalist and editor, most recently editor-in-chief of Teen Vogue. She's also on the board of directors for the International Women's Media Foundation. Versha, welcome to the show, even though I really just kicked you off with like, Versha's got to advocate for the epileptic community. Like,
I mean, yes, that's totally okay. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
yeah.
It's History Month. So, you know,
Yes, happy
somebody
Women's
say
History
yes.
Month.
Yes. We have so much that we're going to talk about today. Let's pull up that rundown, you guys. Obviously, we need to talk about US and Israel in the strike in Iran. We're going to talk about why Trump is going to war. What are his goals? What is it good for? And then I have a new obsession, which is I'm going to walk you guys through. This is like this just came out a few hours ago, but Nancy Mace is having an ethics probe. And I think it brings up just as many more questions as it does answers.
Yeah.
And then I'm so excited that we have Versha here because we want to talk a little bit about legacy media, magazines. I was a huge Teen Vogue fan. And I say was only because you know, but anyway, I think that it is, you know, Versha's era of being a Teen Vogue and others really, I think, created like a different piece of media that like 50 years from now, hopefully people will be going to museums and they'll be looking at articles from Teen Vogue that are like, you know, we're just absolutely groundbreaking. So lots to talk about today. Let's get right into it. Rebecca, you've been closely following everything happening with Iran and walking me through pieces of it because in a word, it's confusing.
It's super confusing. Okay, I'm going to do my best to sum up what we know and what we don't know. But I feel like part of what, you know, you and I were talking about it yesterday, and you were like, I don't think I understand. And I was like, actually, I think you do. I think that there's just so much that we don't know and so much that's unclear that like nobody could possibly understand. But here's what we do know. On Saturday morning, we woke up and it turns out we were at war with Iran. In cahoots, let's call it, with Israel. It represents a huge escalation in tensions in the Middle East. This has been like a pressure cooker for many, many years. It hit military sites across Iran, but specifically in Tehran. And among the reported outcomes, Iran Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was killed in the strikes. And so he's been the leader of Iran for, I believe, 37 years. And so you saw, especially here in the United States, the Iranian diaspora was like very, very happy because he has been, you know, torturing his people with an iron fist, and specifically women. We saw the women's uprising maybe 2 springs ago. But that being said, we have like all sorts of differing opinions here in the United States. Now it's sort of spread outwards. Lebanon has become involved because of Hezbollah, and strikes have happened across the Middle East. The United States is urging people to come back. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said this about what happens next. Do we have a clip, Deanna?
One nation, we grieve for the true American patriots who have made the ultimate sacrifice for our nation, even as we continue the righteous mission for which they gave their lives. We pray for the full recovery of the wounded and send our immense love and eternal gratitude to the families of the fallen. And sadly, there will likely be more. Before it ends, that's the way it is.
That's the way it is.
Alexa, play Celine Dion, That's the Way It Is.
Well, also,
one of my
a lot of
fave
people were
songs.
saying, do you remember in Shrek when Lord Farquaad was like, many of you will die, but that is a sacrifice I am willing to make. He like all but quoted Lord Farquaad. So just to wrap it up before we like start to chew on it, because there's so much to chew on here. It's sort of unclear
Alexa,
why.
turn off. Sorry, that really cued my Alexa. Alexa, turn off. All of a sudden, I just heard it go. It was Celine.
Oh, this play Celine.
Oh my God, that's so funny. That's so funny.
Oh my God, that is a banger. Sorry, guys. I was like, oh my God, here we go.
It's an absolute banger.
Back to our regularly scheduled, although we're big Celine Dion fans here.
That is honestly an underrated song of hers. Yes, I love that song. So I love that you guys love that song.
Did you also know, I just found out that, there were nights when the wind was so cold. That song is about Wuthering Heights. It was inspired by Wuthering Heights.
I know.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. Anyways, Trump says we're going to be at a war 4 or 5 weeks or however long it takes. So somewhere between 4 to 5 weeks and indefinitely. Meanwhile, Marco Rubio says that the biggest attacks are yet to come. So that is, I think, as much as we sort of know, like officially, information is coming in, who's supporting what's happening. But that's what I gathered, that I was like, I feel like this is the bones of the story. Versha, what was your reaction when you saw this?
I mean, oh my gosh. It was like, again, right? It feels kind of similar to what we saw with Venezuela a month ago, or how many weeks ago that was now. Also, I think we can all agree that any action the Trump administration takes is not fully thought out. So even if there is like an unintended consequence or a positive consequence of regime change in Iran because of the Ayatollah and the oppression of women that we see, I think we can also agree that Trump is not necessarily the person we want to see leading this charge, because God knows what his motivations are. So I think I want to say two things quickly. Well, a couple things quickly. One about the Iranian diaspora on how they're reacting to this. I think it's a lot of them are maybe happy and celebrating the end result of the Ayatollah, but I think a lot of them are also extremely worried about what's going to happen next and what comes next. A lot of them, again, know that Trump has a history of going in thoughtlessly, and so we can't imagine he's got any sort of well thought out plan for what actually happens next. Iran is also in this deep state of censorship right now. There's basically a media blackout, so we're not able to really hear that much from people on the ground in Iran. Mm-hmm. We only have Iranian state TV to listen to, and of course they have their own agenda. There was a good article in the New York Times that just came out yesterday that I was reading about Trump's rationale for going to war. Mm-hmm. And it talks about how much Netanyahu pushed him to do this. And even if in the State of the Union last week, Trump mentioned diplomacy, that word has come up around Iran in the past, but he's also very much signaled he's interested in a military offensive in the past as well. But it was really, according to the New York Times reporting, Netanyahu who pushed him over the edge and pushed him to really go to war without congressional authorization and everything else that we're seeing. So.
Yeah, without congressional, the congressional oversight part is wild to me. He's just sort of like, sorry about it. Netanyahu and I talked about it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think one of the things I keep thinking about is I was pulling some data last week on Trump's approval numbers around
Mhm.
immigration,
Mm.
and they are staggeringly low. Trump went into the State of the Union with, I think, the lowest approval rating of any president going into a State of the Union. It's also the lowest that his approval rating has been since January 6th. So people don't like him right now. And from just the narcissistic personality that is Donald Trump, he cannot stand to be disliked. And a lot of Republicans are having a problem with how he's handling immigration. So to me, a huge part of this is just Trump wants to see people in the streets waving, because I drove by a couple of the
Yeah,
celebrations the other day. There were
especially
just
here
as
in LA.
many.
There's big.
Yeah, I live really close to where a lot of Iranian people live, and I don't know if they all identify as Iranian or, now that
Persian.
I'm saying it out, or Persian, but there was a huge celebration happening, right? And there were just as many American flags as there were flags from Iran. So I think what I'm seeing is also Trump needing this ego boost going into the midterms. The midterms are not looking, I'm not just saying that as somebody who skews more leftist. They are
Yeah.
not looking good for Trump and Republicans. And so Trump needs he needs an ego boost, and he needs a numbers boost. And I also think a huge part of why this happened.
I wonder though, like, agreed. And like, I think that part of this, and this is why it's like, oh, this is so confusing. Some of it is like, how could you possibly get into Trump's lizard brain? But also on the other hand, I feel like the people who voted for him, like I talk about this all the time. When I was doing some campaigning and I talked to a woman who was like, I want to vote for Trump because he's not going to get us into more wars. Like he was consistently, like, I think there are people in the MAGA sphere who voted for him because they thought that he wasn't going to do the neocon thing. And so that's part of my curiosity. Like, I think you're right. I think he likes the optics of American flags. And yet, like, there's a huge part of the America First base that was like anti-war. And so I'm curious how this all shakes out for him.
And this was also part of this New York Times reporting, but you can see it elsewhere because Tucker Carlson is being very open about it. He's like one of the biggest splits from Trump on this. Like he did not want Trump to go to war with Iran. He was lobbying Trump himself to avoid this and avoid the consequences of what's going to happen across the region, which, Rebecca, like you were already saying this, like it's already spread, right? It's been mere days, and it's already spread. And what is already such a challenging region. So it's interesting to see how this is going to divide the MAGA base as well, exactly for the reasons that you said. I think many of them are anti-war, or at least didn't think that Trump would be dragging us into these conflicts or regime change in Venezuela and Iran. And he was supposed to focus on domestic issues and the economy, but that's 100% not what he's doing. So I understand why a lot of them would be angry about this.
And he's just sort of like hopping from what it's like Venezuela. Did you even finish what was on your plate before you went?
Exactly.
It's like when I start a new hobby. My husband's like, what happened to when you were needle pointing? I'm like, I'm horseback riding now. Okay. It's a new hobby. I'm very committed. Yeah. But at the same time, I was reading, and Versha, this was in the New York Times as well yesterday. They did I don't know if you guys saw this, but they basically asked Trump voters in Texas, how do you feel about this? And I think one of the sentiments I was picking up was they were like, it's a bummer, but like, we don't want to go to nuclear war. And so I think he's able to sort of be like, I know I said no more wars, but I have to keep you safe. And this is
different. Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is the only way to do it. So I do think he's finding ways to justify it. And I think he uses the fear of what a lot of voters remember, which is what happened on the day of 9/11. And I'm not saying it's the same, but it's like he's able to get in their heads and be like, do you want another 9/11? Even though that's not like what's on the table, but people will be like, no, of course not. Like, and I don't want Iran to have nuclear weapons. He's like, he justifies the fact that he has to do this. And I think that's working for his base.
Yeah. By the way, everybody has been saying, Iran is on the verge of having nuclear weapons for like over a decade. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that you don't know, just like, it's such like a funny not funny, but like it has been this like dangling threat forever. And this is one of the questions that came to my mind. And maybe Versha, you have a sense, because I actually haven't read that New York Times article, and maybe you have some insight here. We did our State of the Union special last Tuesday, and Meredith, you saw me the whole time. I kept on being like, when is he? I thought going into it that the State of the Union would be basically a press conference justifying a hit in Iran. Like, I wasn't surprised that we did strike Iran. What I was surprised was that the State of the Union, he talked about it for like 3 minutes, and then the rest of it was like an award show. And so I wonder why you think, like, he hasn't really given a justification to the American people. And I wonder why you think he didn't talk about it at the State of the Union.
Yeah, I think that's a great observation. I think there's a couple of factors here. One, going back to Trump's lizard brain, as you put it, he's not that strategic, right? And nor is his team. So that's one. There's not a lot of forethought there necessarily.
Yeah.
Two is that I think that because this has proved to be divisive in the MAGA world, among the diaspora, in general, and of course around the world, I don't know how much he wanted to signal ahead that something significant might happen. I mean, there's an intelligence layer to that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then I honestly don't think he cares whether or not the American public understands what he thinks his rationale is or not. I don't think he cares about being legitimate, right? We know that across a number of fronts. He certainly doesn't care about conducting a legitimate versus illegitimate war. So, I mean, I'm not surprised that it wasn't telegraphed more clearly in the State of the Union, but I also, I don't know, and I'd turn this back around on you guys and be curious to know what you think. Was there even one overarching takeaway from his State of the Union? Or was it just a ramble like it usually is?
I love hockey. That was the biggest takeaway. Men's hockey. Exactly. Men's hockey. I would say that was the biggest thing. I still have a crush on Mamdani. Like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mamdani,
I mean, I would say
Mamdani, who is very opposed to this war as well, and came out quickly and said that.
Unsurprisingly. Yeah. I feel like I remember, maybe I'm gonna call this like 2 months ago. I think December. I remember I love Truth Social. Like, I don't use it, but I love like following. Like, I'm fat, like I have my own lizard brain problem. Trump was hosting like the Kennedy Center Awards or something, which like now he's closed. And he Truth Socialed like, I'm gonna be doing this on live television, and like basically like, tweet at me if you think that I should quit my job as president and become a full-time like television host. I'm better than Jimmy Kimmel. Like, I'm paraphrasing, but also like only barely. Like, if you look at it. And so I think that the overarching theme of the State of the Union was like, I'm better at hosting shows than Jimmy Kimmel. I really think that is, he was like, I get my moment on national television. All eyes are on me. And all he ever really wanted was to be a TV star. And it was like the biggest TV star. So why not?
Exactly. I'm sure you've seen the commentary that's like, it's really a shame for so many reasons that the Trump timeline has been the way that it is. But truly, in another life or universe, Trump would have made like a great drag queen show host. Like, that's his vibe. Like,
my deepest conspiracy theory is that Trump is actually just a big performance art piece. That he's like the biggest performance art piece in the history of the world, and he's just performing what it would look like for the swampiest version of the United States government, and the whole thing is just a performance.
Well, I don't think we needed a sequel. Like most things, I don't think we needed a sequel because they never are as good. I mean, I also want to talk about for a second, like 4 American service members have already been killed in this. Yeah. And watching Trump speak about it. So, and I mean, I know that's his style, but just to be like, that's the way it is such a deeply, I think, harmful way of looking at the loss of American lives overseas. I think to me, it reminds me of the fact that like Trump does not care about people who are not wealthy. And I'm not saying that like if you're in the military, but like that is in particular, like these are not his elite friends that are in the military. So he doesn't care that these, young people are dying over there.
Isn't going to get drafted.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. People keep being like, draft Barron. I'm like, to be honest with you, like, Trump does not, and I say this with, I think there's a lot of bad people out there that love their kids. Trump does not love his kids, in my opinion. I don't think he loves them. I think Melania loves Barron 1,000%. But Trump doesn't want them to get drafted because it would look bad for him, not because he doesn't care. Like, I can guarantee you, if like one of Trump's kids is like, oh my God, I'm really sick, I have the flu, he doesn't give a shit. Like, there is no love for his children. All he cares about is status. Like, if it would make him look good to send Barron to war, he would send him in a minute. Like, he doesn't care. So anyway, I just thought that was so indicative of how maybe these next 5 weeks or 5 years could go.
Do you remember COVID when he came out and he was like a miracle, by Easter COVID will be gone? That's kind of what it reminded me of, is like, okay, 4 to 5 weeks, and 6 years later we're gonna be like, oh yeah, remember when it was gonna be a 4 to 5 week war? That's what I think.
Yeah, very reminiscent of Bush and the mission accomplished banner that he put up 3 months after invading Iraq. Trump has had an interesting and horrible through line when it comes to military families and veterans in particular. He has a really, really nasty record of what he says about them, which I don't know why that's so galling to him, especially because he himself was a draft dodger, right, in the Vietnam War. Like, he drafted 5 times. And yet he has kind of made it a point to attack a lot of military families, which, you know, there's a lot to unpack there. But I'm totally with you, Meredith, about just like the callousness of what he said in the clip and the way that he talks about it. And then just back to this also through line of how incompetent and thoughtless this administration is. I don't know if you saw this, but 3 American jets were already taken down by friendly fire. Yeah. And the crew's all fine. The pilots all ejected safely. Nobody died. But again, like 48 hours into this new offensive and we're already shooting down our own planes. Like, what's
also
going on?
Traumatizing. Like, you know what I mean? Just like, even if you get out unscathed, the experience of war is traumatizing. And I think, Versha, that's a great point about how he treats military families. And I think it's because there's a deep insecurity in him for the fact that he is a draft dodger, that he did never serve. And like, that's one of the things that I think with the Biden family always really hit him. They're a military family. You know, Beau Biden had such an amazing service record. And so I think that's one of those things that like, he can never land the military piece because it's like a hole in him. And not everyone has to serve in the military in order to be a good American, but like, he's so, I think, innately insecure.
Yeah. I think that's totally right. Projection is his whole thing, right?
Yes.
100%. I also think we can't ignore, and then I think we should talk about your Nancy Mace obsession, but I think we can't ignore the fact that these are all old men. I think that they are, like, I think some of this is a death rattle. I think it's like, you know, historically, the great presidents always have a war, you know, like FDR had a war, Abraham Lincoln had a war. And I think some of this is as simple as like Netanyahu probably going to Trump and being like, if you had a war, you'd be a great they'd probably put a monument up to you. You know, like, I do sometimes see Vladimir Putin, Netanyahu, Trump. Like, I sometimes look at this and I'm like, these are just men who are afraid that death is coming for them. And it is coming for them at some point, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's coming for all of us. That's the reality, right? I mean,
I know, but I don't need a war to, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's the difference.
I do, depending on the day. I called my husband in the room the other night. I told you this. I was like, hey, come in here. And he was like, yeah, what's up? I'm like, I'm scared of dying. He was like, oh, okay. He's like, where's this coming from? I don't know, just laying in bed thinking about it. He was like, okay, I think you should pull out a book. I was like,
fair enough. I'm afraid of dying and more afraid of aging, which says so many wrong, terrible things about our culture. You know?
I'm scared of both.
Yeah, fair enough.
Aging is a privilege, guys. It's a privilege.
Aging is a privilege. I know.
Yes, it is. And so
Sound
is
more
being alive.
enthusiastic.
And
Yet, so is being alive in the time of Botox. I brought this Nancy Mace story to the group earlier today, and I am obsessed with this because I feel like drama follows Nancy Grace in a way that like sometimes is brought upon herself, and sometimes I think that she is a little bit of like somebody who is used to be the face of certain things. And I have to talk about this because there is a probe that is happening into improper reimbursements for Nancy Mace's cost of living expenses in DC. And what I think is really interesting about this is a couple things. First of all, for a very long time, they have debated if they want to give members of Congress some like allocation of funds to use towards their housing. And because if you are in Congress, you have to maintain 2 residencies, which is very expensive. And, you know, the salary is like $174,000 a year for a representative, which I know feels like a lot, folks. But the cast of Teen Mom makes $500,000 a season. Okay. And when I found that out, I was like, I should have stayed pregnant in high school. You guys, that's actually from my act. Okay. I had to use it. I had to use it. I usually tell it about Trump. But it always kills. And but anyway, so they only make that, and you have to maintain 2 residencies, and for a lot of them that means like one that's totally across the country, etc. So now Congress has this, you know, they can use some money. And now according to Nancy Mace's ex-fiance, she misappropriated $9,000 of those funds. So there is an investigation happening. And she's coming out and saying this is a witch hunt. She's coming out and saying this is because the ethics oversight committee person, you know, just wants to go after me, and saying really horrible things about him, including like Islamophobic things. Also accused of beating women is like a huge stretch because your girl, I did the deep dive, and like, he's not really like, he got into a bar altercation in 2017 where he was accused of verbally assaulting women, which like verbally assaulting is not the same as beating. It's just not, it's not. And then also the DUI thing. I mean, yeah, you know, this is what I would say. It looks like, Omar Ashwami might have a little booze problem. But that's kind of
Pete Hegseth who's running a war.
That's what I mean. That's neither here nor there, right? Like that's a whole other issue.
I also think that when you come into a statement like using somebody's religion or ethnicity against, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like everything from that point, my eyes glaze over, you know, I'm like
the DUI,
Islam loving. It's like,
right.
You mean he's Muslim? Like, you mean he's you know, like, okay.
Great. You delete all that. And I'm not saying but like, just lead with the DUI. Cause that's your best point, Nancy, but also it has nothing to do with you misappropriating $9,000. So anyway, I want to put this out to the group because here's a hot take. What's $9,000 in fraud?
I mean, with the fraud happening everywhere.
What is it? It's not that much money. And how can she be the only one who's misappropriated some of these housing funds? I just don't know that $9,000 is that big of a deal. I mean, I would love $9,000.
Okay, so I don't know about, I mean, I agree. I saw this story and I was like, $9,000. On the other hand, I'm like, wait a minute, that's my tax dollars. And I'm pissed off about just about everything right now. But what I do think is interesting about this story is like, I do think that like, because again, $174,000 for an individual who's, you know, is a good, healthy salary. But if you are going back and forth across the country and have to maintain 2 living places, like I actually do think that precludes certain people from running for office. It precludes young people from running for office, people who are not generationally wealthy. And so then of course you end up with people who have more money going into it. And so I think like overall, this is a good thing, but like interesting that there's bumps in the road immediately as it relates to Nancy Mace, who's like the messiest girl in the whole wide world. She also seems like deeply traumatized. Like a lot of her, like, because she came out and talked about sexual assaults and then tied it to her transphobia. Like, she does a lot of things where it's like she takes one thing that is clearly from her own traumatized experience and then applies it in really like twisted ways that makes me unsympathetic to her. But Nancy Mace strikes again. What do you think, Versha?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's less about the dollar amount of $9,000, which I think, that's a fair thing to discuss, like how much is this in the grand scheme of things, but it being Nancy Mace specifically, right? Because she does have this very public record of transphobia, as you were just talking about, Rebecca, like extreme Islamophobia against anybody, including probably just brown people who aren't even actually Muslim, but she's made crazy
we don't even
about them too. Like it's that kind of Islamophobia. Like this is the kind of scandal or controversy that like she would use to try to delegitimize somebody else based on their identity. And so, if Congressional Ethics Office is like actually working and things are proceeding as they should, I'm all for that. But I think it's more about what a hypocrite she is and how people in this universe are. And if it were to happen to a Democrat or just somebody that she didn't like on some basis, how much she would try to tear that person apart. And of course, it always turns into a victimization ritual. Like I think I just saw she posted on X or some social media platform, like, they're coming after me because I'm fighting for you, the little guy. And it's like, no, it's like Rebecca said, it's actually your tax dollars that are potentially being misappropriated here. And also, like, that's not what you're doing. She was in a House oversight hearing with Hillary Clinton yesterday, asking her with Lauren about Pizzagate. Like, it was just like Hillary got so frustrated and walked out. I think like this is not somebody who cares
we have a clip
about her job.
We have a clip of Hillary reacting to Lauren Boebert. I think Vienna thought 10 steps ahead and pulled a clip. Oh, she doesn't have it. Never mind. Sorry. But yeah, we saw they finally released that footage yesterday, and you can see Hillary Clinton doing her like classic, like, but yeah, they grill on like nonsense. And by the way, it also muddies all of the headlines. It becomes confusing as to like what exactly we need to be paying attention to.
Right. Yeah, you're right. The hearing was actually on Thursday, but they just released the footage yesterday. That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys make a good point. It's like it also is like, oh, of course it's Nancy Mace, right? And I don't want my tax dollars misappropriated. And that's like one of the things about, my thoughts about the war in Iran. Like I've been hearing a lot of people say like, you have to support this, even if you don't agree with Trump. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I don't really want my tax dollars going to wars in general. And that's like just I also think it's like I would love to talk to somebody who's like hardcore anti-war right now. Like former Representative Barbara Lee is a really interesting person who like I think she's the mayor of Oakland now, but she's long been anti-war. And so I think it's really interesting right now because it's like, there is this I saw on TikTok yesterday, so who knows how, but like there is sort of this growing sentiment of people not paying their 2025 taxes because of the ways in which they're being used. And I think this was a movement during the Vietnam War as well. But want to throw this out to the group. How do you feel about like this isn't Joe Giudice tax evasion. This is different tax evasion.
We actually did an article about this. I'm trying to pull it up at Teen Vogue.
Interesting.
Tax resistance. That's what it's called. War tax resistance. And this 100%, I think, will happen more because of what we're seeing in Iran and Venezuela. But with young people who are really upset about the U.S. supporting Israel's military actions in Gaza, a lot of them were starting to organize and say resisting war taxes is the way to go. So I think it's fascinating. It's a fascinating way to protest. Sorry. Let me let Rebecca jump in.
No. That's great. I love that Teen Vogue did that. No, I think that like it's the same, Tara Palmieri was on the show last week and she made the point that really like I think what all of this is leading is pushing towards is just a populist revolt. I think that, like these are all such like simple and stark things in some ways, which is like, hey, I don't want my tax dollars going here. Hey, there's an elite class of men who are running a pedophile ring, you know? And I think I just think it's tipping further and further into that. And I think people are exhausted. And I think people are angry. And I think part of what is great about the internet and terrible about the internet, or I'm going to say terrible, is there is no nuance. You know what I mean? Like, we don't do nuance on the internet. And so people are just sort of like, I unilaterally do not support this and do not want to pay for this. And in that way, that's good. And then there's other ways in which I'm like, that flattens the conversation.
I want to be able to like pick where my tax dollars go. Like
I've
how when I make a donation to my college, I can be like, and by the way, I always say use it wherever it's most needed. So who knows what I would pick, but I feel like if people could pick where they send their taxes, it would be really interesting to see what the American public wants to fund, because I think there are people who'd be like, yes, I can't wait to fund the war in Iran. And I would be like, I don't want to fund Nancy Mace's Washington, D.C. Petitier. Like,
exactly.
I've said this forever. I've always thought that a portion of your taxes just have to go to whatever they say, and then the rest you get to pick a bunch of buckets. But then a friend of mine who works in education nonprofits made the point that then school districts year to year wouldn't know what their budget was going to be for the next year. And so to that end, I'm like, yeah, that's right. Like the way school budgets work now is they know how much money is going to come in based off of what percentage.
Listen, not every idea is a good idea. I had an idea about adding 2 additional goals to U.S. soccer. I thought if people in the U.S. soccer has never taken off the way that it should. And that's because we are a country that's fueled by high scoring. We like a high scoring game. So what if we added 2 additional goals to every soccer game?
Like actual goals on the pitch?
Yeah. So we got 4 goals. Everybody's got
2 goals, and they count for less maybe, but you still hit them more.
No, they're going to count for the same amount, Rebecca. And
this is an interesting idea. I think we should try it out.
I mean, if FIFA's giving out world peace prizes at this point, why not just add 2 more goals? If they're taking pitches.
My husband, who's worked in sports for years, who I always throw, I'm always like, oh, for the NFL Pro Bowl role, what if instead of bringing in the best players, we made the best coaches play each other, which is always these old men. I was like, wouldn't that be fun? And he's that's dangerous. And I'm like, I know. But when I pitched my idea for 2 additional goals, he was like, it's not the worst idea.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it would be fun to watch, honestly.
I agree.
I am a soccer fan. I feel like it's also not that popular here because of American football. But you're totally right. It is a very low scoring game.
It's very America. Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of, I don't know how I'm going to transition to this story. I'm just going to do it, which is we have Versha Sharma here, who is an icon in the glossy mag world. And right now, everybody is obsessed with 90s culture because of the JFK Carolyn Bessette show. The aesthetic is all over the place. And I feel like part of that era, I was just saying this the other day. I was like, how much of my personality and drive to be in legacy media was a genuine innate love, and how much of it was that every leading rom-com character between 1997 and 2004 was a journalist working at a glossy magazine.
I know. And, I love it. I love it. They raised us. They raised us.
Okay. This is my other thing. I don't want to see Devil Wears Prada 2 unless it's just her on a therapist's couch talking about how much the whole thing was a freaking scam at the end of the day.
Meryl or Anne?
No, Anne Hathaway.
Oh, okay.
Anne Hathaway. Because I'm sorry. That's not how I experience the world. That you go and work for a powerful woman and suddenly all the doors open. The way that I experience the world is you go and work for a powerful woman and you exhaust yourself and burn out, and then look introspectively and say, how much of this do I actually want versus how much do I want this image? And that's the only Devil Wears Prada 2 I'm watching.
Rebecca, you just described what I'm living through.
Girl, don't I know it? I know you and I can go have an offline conversation.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's a real thing because I think that that's in some ways what they sold us. They were like, all right, girlies, you're smart, you dress well, you're ambitious, and all you need to do is go out there and be smart and then like start to, make networks and like find a woman who's going to sponsor you. And then all of a sudden, one day, somebody's going to turn around and notice how hard you work and how smart you are. And that part never happens. You just wake up one day, middle aged, and you're like, oh, I'm exhausted. And I used to want to do, you and I are both Edward R. Murrow Award winners. It's like you wanted to, that thing that you wanted to do, that sort of like real, like heart driven reporting, that's like research, is like, when was the last time you actually got to do that versus the climbing? So anyways, all of this to say is I thought we would revisit, what is now the tumbling legacy media world and shifting leadership. So that's what I wanted to talk about before we head out.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about that. I feel like that's basically been my whole career. I mean, I'm a millennial. I was at Teen Vogue for 5 years and managing a team of fellow millennials, and then of course mostly Gen Zers. Before that, I was at Now This for 7 years, where I helped, build it up from when nobody knew who we were in 2014 to what it is now. So my focus has always or largely been on reaching young audiences and working with new ways of media, the new ways that we're all consuming news and stories, of course, on our phones, largely through video. And definitely have a lot of thoughts on generational shifts in leadership and management and newsrooms for sure.
Well, Meredith pointed out, go ahead, Meredith.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, Meredith pointed out, she was like, let's play this clip of Chloe Mail and Anna Wintour, who were interviewed by the New York Times. And I think it really epitomizes, I think it like stirred the internet and it epitomizes the tension as generations shift in leadership in the media. So let's play that clip quickly.
And then that Vogue had or another Condé Nast publication had in the late 90s. What would you do with it?
You've got me excited thinking about this now. Sort of what would I do? I would build a whole new podcast studio. I would pay everyone 30% more. I would make sure the social team had more people on it because they're working all the time. I would have our app staffed more fully.
We have so many ideas about shoots that we're excited about doing that take people on adventures, and those budgets would really help with that. And we are still finding ways to do these things, but there's always more you can be doing.
But to be clear, Jessica, we have a very healthy budget at Vogue, and how we use it and use our resources is constantly changing depending on the moment.
I'm a Chloe stan. Just so we're all clear, when the announcement was made, I will admit, I was like, oh, great, the Nepo baby got it. And then I started actually reading about Chloe and I started looking at her approach because I think it's really easy to just go down the rabbit hole of like, oh, she just got it because, she's got a famous mom and she's been around. Chloe's, I used to work in nonprofit fundraising for a really big shop, and we used to put people in 2 categories, show ponies and workhorses. Chloe's a workhorse.
Yeah.
Chloe's a fucking workhorse. Yeah. And I even just exampled by that answer. And so I don't know. I mean, Versha, you've probably been in proximity to Chloe. I don't know if you guys overlapped at all at different publications, but I just would love to hear your thoughts on where you see her taking Vogue.
Yeah, for sure. No, we overlap just a little bit. I mean, we were both at Condé, so I've known her for a little while, but I think I'm totally with you. That answer exemplifies why I think she is a good editor and leader in this moment, because I think her answer is pretty much exactly what I would do as well. I love that she's thinking about the staff. She's thinking about how many hours they're working. She's thinking about their salaries. This is part of the generational change in leadership that the boomer generation didn't necessarily think about that or care about it, honestly, when it came to their direct reports. But millennials, because of the way that we came up and the BS that we had to wade through and the unpaid internships and the long nights and the slugs and all of this, now that we're in positions of power and influence, if we can make it a little bit easier on the next person coming through the door, then I think that's what a lot of us want to do. So I think that's 100% what Chloe's answer exemplifies. And it's just realistic, right? Like it's realistic about the operations of what it takes to run both a print and digital and social publication in today's day and age. Which is one reason why, Anna promoted her and hired her, because at 39, she is somebody who understands the way that people consume content today. And she is a workhorse, to your point, Meredith. She was at Vogue for 14 years. I know like people might see the Nepo Baby headline or relation, but she was at Vogue for 14 years, working in a variety of positions across those years before she got this job. So, she didn't come out of nowhere, for sure.
Yeah. She knows the like DNA of the brand. Can I say?
And also,
no,
go ahead.
Well,
also,
I was going to get controversial, so go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one of the things. Amy O'Donnell did some really great coverage of this. Amy O'Dell did some really great coverage of this when Chloe was promoted, and one of the things that she noted was like, Chloe, actually, it's one of those things that I think we can all relate to this. Not only, yes, it was a promotion, but like she also has so many things that she has to keep doing. In addition to this role that she's taking on. So I think one of the things is like, there's still that like toxic culture in her promotion of like, we've all been there. They're like, guess what? We're giving you this incredible opportunity. And you're like, amazing. Can I get someone to take over XYZ so I can focus on ABC? And they're like, oh, no. You're going to have to keep doing that. And like the salary, I don't know what her salary increase is. I'm sure, I hope it's healthy. I hope it's great. But like, there is still that culture for women in work where it's like, we just add to your plate. We don't take away from your plate. And that's also one of the things that I noticed when people have been talking about her shift in responsibilities.
Yeah. Well, that kind of speaks to one of the things that I was going to say, which is like, I don't know her personally, but like, I was not a big fan of this choice because I find her to be so bland and uninteresting. Like, I think she's sort of like a devoid of fashion, in my opinion, as somebody who loves Vogue. And it said to me that Anna Wintour is still running the world. She like picked somebody who is a workhorse, who isn't going to come and bring like massive aesthetic decisions and changes, who is going to be a little bit of a puppet. That's just my opinion from the outside, is like, she almost has this like Queen Elizabeth feeling to me, like young Queen Elizabeth. When they did her photo shoot, Chloe Mal, like her announcement photo shoot, she had like a very sort of like ethereal, she was wearing a lot of light blue. It looked very Queen Elizabeth, like unassuming queen. And seeing this, I felt like Anna Wintour is still pulling a lot of the strings in a way that perhaps we don't see. But the other thing that I was going to say is, I think, to Versha's point about the generations of women and how millennials, and I truly believe this, and I really hope this, are like, it was really hard for me in this way, so how do I fix this? I think there's two ways to respond to trauma. And one of them is, this was terrible, and so I don't want to impose it on the next person. And then there's, this was terrible and I had to deal with it, so why shouldn't you have to deal with it? And I have found that the generation just above us, that's been my experience a lot, is like, they were the first women to like fully be able to integrate into the workplace. And they were like, well, there was nobody here to lift me up, so why shouldn't you have to work just as hard? And I feel like that's an intergenerational push and pull that we see in leadership. So those are my two controversial opinions.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right about the generational part of it. And this is something that even millennial managers run into with Gen Z sometimes, because you might hear this, maybe you guys have discussed this before, like there may sometimes be griping about a sense of entitlement for younger people coming into the workforce who are asking for promotions and raises every single year. And you're like, that's not how it works, or at least that's not how it worked when we were in our 20s and coming up.
Right.
But I think that's 100% right. It's something that we have to grapple with, which is, how do we make it better for the next generation so they don't have to put up with all the toxic workplace BS that we had to put up with? But how can we also prioritize like actual work and quality of work and merit as well? Because that's important too.
I feel like that's like, not to get like woo, but like that's the internal work. Like this is what I was talking about. Is like I spend a lot of time now thinking about like what part of my career and ambition was about like ego and wanting to like fit an image and like get these things, and what part of it was really a love of craft and a curiosity and like a drive for truth. And like I think in order to have better, healthier workplaces, especially in media, we have like leaders really have to know that answer for themselves.
I have a very specific question that's a little, I mean, it's related, but Versha, I need to know, like, what was your first favorite teen-ish magazine?
Ooh, good question. I mean, it was YM. Did you guys read YM? Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah, it's how I found out about pap smears. I was like, well,
there you go.
I guess I'm
Wow.
gonna have to do that.
That's the thing. It's teen magazines, so you're giving real information, you know?
So I had an older sister. She's 4.5 years older than me, and I would like sneak and read her mags because, of course, my parents and she didn't want me to read her magazines. But that's definitely like the earliest memory that I have. What was the section that they had for like embarrassing stories that happened to you? Like that was always
Yes,
the addictive sections to read. 100%.
I know. In hindsight, I'm like, I feel like some of those were fan fiction. Like I'm remembering some of them. Like,
we didn't have the internet the same way we do today. We needed an outlet for fan fiction.
That's right.
It was the OG Reddit. Like
yes. That's
Rebecca,
so true.
do you remember your first like teen magazine that you loved?
J14.
Yes.
J14.
Oh, so like that was a lot of like posters and stuff.
That was like my early, you know, like it was like I really was 14. Like that was like my pre-teen, and it was like, you know, NSYNC and JTT and you know, J14. What about you?
I'm an NSYNC girl through and through.
Oh, through and through.
Same.
Through and through.
Yeah. Also, partly because like I didn't catch on to Backstreet Boys fast enough. So then like NSYNC came out and I was like, they're like, which one do you like? And I was like, I'll just pick the newer one. Like, like I don't know what to do.
Yeah, that's true. Backstreet Boys, I was like a little young. I was like, you know, like
yeah,
a little earlier. Yeah.
I think for me, I remember my cousin and I went on vacation and my mom and my aunt let us get a teen magazine. Remember Teen? That was an actual magazine. It was called Teen Magazine. And I remember there was a story in there about a girl. This is awful. There was a story in there about a girl who she went to like a soccer tournament and her family came to watch her. And on the way home, she'd gone home on the bus and they'd all gone home in the car and they'd gotten into a car accident and they'd all died.
Oh my God.
It was like the most traumatizing story. And it did like I was too young to read it.
yeah.
Because like for the next like 4 years, anytime my mom or dad was running like 2 minutes late, I was like, well, it's over now.
Oh,
like,
God.
I'm on my own. But I do remember those magazines. Like I grew up very Catholic. And so there were certain things that just like weren't talked about, like pap smears. I had no idea. So I think there were things in those magazines that I was learning about, maybe sometimes a little too young, but things that it was like really great to hear it from like not some girl in the bathroom at middle school.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I feel like I learned so much about periods and, you know, Cosmo, 17, all of those magazines, definitely.
Yeah. So
although I am of the opinion that they all made us way more scared of toxic shock syndrome from tampons.
Oh, yeah. To this day. That's such a good point. To this day. Yeah.
That also had a real traumatic impact.
That's so funny. Wow. Yeah, we all have. That's so funny. All right, before we get out of here, Versha, what's having a moment for you? What's having a moment for you out in the world?
This is not a surprising answer. I don't know if you guys have already discussed this, but I am one of the many people obsessed with a heated rivalry.
Ooh.
Have you guys talked about this yet?
No.
Oh my God, I'm so obsessed. The show's fantastic. The books are fantastic. It's bringing me a lot of joy. I actually got to host a dinner for Rachel Reed, the author of the books, a couple days ago here in New York. It was so special. Like we brought the show creator, Jacob Tierney was there. Hudson Williams, who's one of the stars, showed up to support her. It's just really it's such a lovely community and crew, and I think the show is so beautiful, and of course about romance. And I'm also very into the new season of Bridgerton, if you're watching that as well. So it's the romance shows that are taking over my life right now and bringing me joy.
I love a romance show. I know.
Well,
What about
Rebecca,
you
what's having a moment for you, Rebecca?
I don't know if this is a moment exactly, but what's fascinating me is the internet's obsession with the idea that Jim Carrey has been cloned.
I feel so bad for Jim Carrey.
I don't. Like, it is.
Don't.
No, okay.
Meredith
we'll
says
talk
no.
about it later.
Interesting.
Right.
Okay. So if you missed it, which obviously these ladies didn't, but just in case you're watching and you missed it, Jim Carrey showed up at an award show in France. And like the way that I view this is he had an upper blepharoplasty and a facelift and some filler. Like he clearly had work done, but he looks creepy. Like it's not good work. And also, like, I get it because I feel like Jim Carrey goes through these phases where, like, for a little while, he was the guy with the beard that was like, nothing is real. And, like, I don't buy into the Hollywood bullshit. And now all of a sudden he's like, you know, but what came of it is all of these internet rumors, which are somehow weirdly connected to the Epstein rumors, that he is, in fact, a clone that has been like dropped in because he had been talking about the Illuminati. And that's why they had to switch him out. The other rumor is that somebody dressed and impersonated him. I think none of it is true. I think the fundamental problem is we all saw Anne Hathaway, Emma Stone, and Lindsay Lohan's facial work. And we were like, that's what I'll look like if I get some facial work. And the truth is, you're not going to look like that. And most of the people come out and they look like ghouls. And I think Jim Carrey just got some bad plastic surgery. So that's what's having a moment for me.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I also think you gotta let the filler settle. And I also think like it's probably a very male attitude to be like, whatever, I'm fine. Like the bruising's gone. I'm gonna go out. And it's like, yeah, I mean, also too, like we all have puffy days. I have puffy days, I don't know.
They get that, like Demi Moore. I remember there was a little while where she had bad plastic surgery. And of course now she looks incredible. Like, I think like they're ultra wealthy people. And so they're like, let me overcorrect, let me undercorrect. They're clearly afraid of aging as much as I am. But I just thought that was like, the internet is such a bizarre place where like, that's the conclusion that was drawn. Not that he had a bad upper blepharoplasty, but that because he had been speaking out against the Illuminati had to put in a double to silence him.
I didn't know about the Illuminati aspect of it. I'm not surprised, but I did not know.
It's the Illuminati. It is. Meredith, what's having a moment for you?
Well, actually, what's having a moment for me is this is my last show before we move to studio.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I was like, are you telling me something?
I know. I don't want to start any rumors. I mean, I'm sure we'll be back doing this here in our homes in some iteration at some point. But we are moving to studio next week and I am out on Friday. I have to go home for a family commitment. So Rebecca's going to take the lead. And we have a great guest co-host, Tracy Gilchrist from Holding Space for the Lyrics of Defying Gravity is coming.
We love her. Amazing.
Yeah,
isn't
she
the best?
Yeah, we love Tracy. Yeah. So, I mean, it's just kind of wild to me. We started this show in September of last year and we were doing it just on TikTok Live and I would like get my phone all set up and now we're moving to studio and it's such an incredible opportunity and I'm really excited for all the things that we're going to be able to do there. And I'm also like not going to miss like I don't know, who knows what can happen in this house. Celine Dion turning on. Yeah, it's I know we'll be back here again for other things, but like it does feel a little bit like the end of an era of doing it here. So yeah.
That's super exciting. Congratulations, guys.
It is exciting. And we hope to have you back again. Before we go, tell everybody where they can find you, where they can read your work.
Absolutely. You can find me on Instagram at Versharma. I'm also at Versharma on Threads. Versha Sharma on TikTok. I'm more of a lurker there. I'm not super active. But yeah, find me online. My email is out there if you ever want to get in touch. And I'm so happy to have joined you guys today. This was great.
Thank you so much, Versha. And thank you, everybody.